Today is Friday, September 9th. We'll tell you about the significance and history of Queen Elizabeth II's 7-decade reign as the world says goodbye, and what comes next for the royal family. Also, a one-time political advisor to former President Trump turned himself in to face several criminal charges, why it might feel a little like déjà vu, and why Washington, D.C. is declaring a public emergency. Plus, move over Botox, the new anti-wrinkle treatment that just got FDA approved. Princeton's new plan to offer free college tuition to a quarter of its students. And what to watch at this year's New York Fashion Week. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. People in Great Britain woke up this morning to a new monarch after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen's death marks the end of the longest reign of any monarch in England, an unprecedented 70 years. The royal family confirmed the beloved 96-year-old died peacefully at Balmoral Castle in Scotland yesterday. She first became the head of the British monarchy when she was just 25. At the time of her coronation, Winston Churchill was prime minister, the first of 15 prime ministers she would work with. Over her remarkable reign, the Queen ruled England during a historic period of a lot of change, from rebuilding from war to Brexit to a pandemic and more. Advances in technology and transportation also allowed her to travel the globe more than any other monarch before her. Even through numerous scandals involving other members of the royal family, the Queen remained a well-respected world leader, despite a shift in the role and importance of the monarchy. Queen Elizabeth's life will be remembered not only as one of dedication and love for her country and Commonwealth, but also to her family. She was married to Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, a member of the Greek royal family, for over 70 years. He died last year. She said his passing left a huge void in her life. The couple had 4 children, 8 grandchildren, and 12 great-grandchildren. The Queen was fulfilling her royal duties up until the end. Just days before her death, she appointed Britain's new Prime Minister, Liz Truss. As concerns for her health grew, members of the royal family raced to be by her side. Her death means her oldest son, Charles, becomes king. He's now King Charles III. He said the loss of his mother is a moment of the greatest sadness for him, and that it would be deeply felt around the world. Many world leaders paid tribute as well. President Biden called her a, quote, stateswoman of unmatched dignity and constancy who deepened the bedrock alliance between the United Kingdom and the United States. The Queen will reportedly lie in state in Westminster Abbey in London in the days leading up to her funeral, allowing her subjects and fans the chance to pay their respects and show their love for the Queen one final time. Her funeral is expected to take place 10 days after her death. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken made a surprise visit to Ukraine, marking the second visit to the country since Russia invaded. He's the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit over the last 6 months. Blinken met with Ukrainian President Zelensky in the capital city of Kyiv and praised Ukrainians for the gains they were making in taking back control of Russian-held areas. He also announced the U.S. will be sending more aid. Almost $3 billion worth of financial aid and weapons will go to not only help Ukraine, but also for neighboring countries, many of them NATO allies, to beef up their security in case Russia tries to expand the war. All told, the U.S. has now spent $13.5 billion since Russia first invaded Ukraine. A one-time political advisor to former President Trump turned himself in to face several charges, including money laundering and conspiracy. Steve Bannon pled not guilty to the charges. They're connected to a fundraiser where he and others promised the money raised would go to help build the wall on the southern border during Trump's presidency. Well, prosecutors in New York accuse Bannon of duping donors and funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars to other people and groups. If this sounds familiar, it's because it's essentially a New York state version of a federal case brought back in 2020. A federal case that got cut short when Trump gave him a presidential pardon. Prosecutors in New York say they have jurisdiction because people in New York were defrauded, and that the wealthy and powerful must obey the law like everyone else. But Bannon calls these new charges partisan and phony. For now, he's been released. By the way, in a separate investigation, it seems former President Trump's own fundraising is coming under scrutiny now. A federal grand jury has issued subpoenas looking for information about a key fundraising arm for the former president called Save America PAC. So far, no comment from Trump about the subpoenas. The mayor in Washington, D.C. has declared a public emergency in response to thousands of migrants being sent to the district on buses. The emergency declaration allows the mayor to use millions of dollars in city funds to help deal with busloads of people arriving several times a week. She also created a new office just to deal with housing, feeding, and any medical treatment they might need. She calls this a political stunt turned man-made humanitarian crisis. Because remember, the governors in Arizona and Texas have offered migrants free bus rides to the nation's capital and some other cities in the hopes of drawing attention to the influx of asylum seekers in border towns and the challenges that come along with that. Once asylum seekers cross the border and are given the all clear, they're often told when to come back to court and then released. Nearly 10,000 people have arrived in D.C. from Texas and Arizona since April. A reminder for this weekend, Sunday marks 21 years since the September 11th terror attacks. President Biden will deliver a speech and lay a wreath to honor the lives lost at the Pentagon. First Lady Jill Biden will travel to Shanksville, Pennsylvania to remember the brave men and women aboard Flight 93. Vice President Kamala Harris and her husband will be in New York at the National September 11th Memorial to pay their respects. There are local events happening around the country as well to commemorate the day. Still ahead, we're talking interest rates, a new Botox competitor, a feel-good story to end your week, and more. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. If you're a business owner that likes to get these news roundups that save you time, you'll love Indeed. Because with Indeed Instant Match, you can instantly get a list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Hiring? You need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. You don't have to spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Hate waiting? Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. I always appreciate a platform that brings everything you need into one place and essentially does the hard work for you. Indeed knows that when you're doing everything for your company, you can't afford to overspend on hiring. Visit Indeed.com/newsworthy to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/newsworthy. Indeed.com/newsworthy. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Interest rates will continue to go up as long as inflation remains high. That's the latest from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. He said this week his main focus is getting prices down before they become the norm. He says that's why inflation lasted so long in the 70s and 80s. These were likely Powell's last public comments before the Fed meets later this month, when many expect rates to be raised yet again. To be continued. The FDA has given the green light to a new anti-wrinkle treatment that could offer some serious competition to Botox. The newly approved treatment is called Daxxify and is produced by Revance Therapeutics. The biotech company says Daxxify reduces wrinkles for an average of 6 months, at least 2 months longer than that of Botox. And that means users could need as little as 2 appointments a year for results. The facial injection market has been dominated by Botox since its release in 2002. Botox is also FDA approved for the treatment of migraines. The chief executive of Revance says they've begun testifying Daxxify to see if it can also treat migraines and other health problems. Revance has not said yet how much Daxxify treatments will cost. One of the wealthiest Ivy League schools in the U.S. now says it'll cover the entire cost of college for more of its students. Princeton University says students from families making less than $100,000 a year can now attend for free. That includes tuition, room and board, and other costs of school for undergraduates. Princeton says roughly a quarter of the student body will now pay nothing for college under these new guidelines. The school's president says they're committed to ensuring students from all backgrounds can not only afford a Princeton education, but can flourish on campus. Students from families making over $100,000 a year will still be able to get financial support, but it won't be free. Princeton has made headlines before for its financial aid policies. For the past 6 years, the school's offered free college for families making less than $65,000 a year. This updated financial aid plan will go into effect next fall. And speaking of paying for college, our special edition Saturday episode tomorrow is all about the recently announced student loan forgiveness program. I spoke with 2 experts about the potential pros and cons for individuals and the U.S. economy overall. New York Fashion Week officially kicks off today in the Big Apple, with the biggest names in design coming together to showcase new looks. The 5.5-day event will feature shows for 100 brands, including fashion staples like Coach, Tory Burch, and Christian Siriano. But something new made its runway debut this year during a first-of-its-kind show leading up to Fashion Week. At the Double Take fashion show, models in wheelchairs made their way down the runway, wearing accessible fashion specifically designed for people with disabilities. The show featured adaptive looks that are easy to get on and off by 6 up-and-coming designers. Another show people have their eyes on, Puma. The footwear brand says it has an immersive runway show that will be a combination of both digital and physical worlds. Puma will reportedly unveil a series of NFTs that can be redeemed for limited edition physical sneakers. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. When I'm trying to research what doctor to go to, it can feel really time-consuming, and it often feels like there aren't a lot of resources out there. That's why I appreciate ZocDoc. It makes finding the right doctor feel as straightforward as picking the best brunch spot in town or ordering a ride to a restaurant. In other words, it helps my research process by putting everything in one place online. I'm talking doctors that fit my schedule, are in-network, that's key, and even in my neighborhood. I just set the filters, click a button, and boom, I get to see that they take my insurance, where they're located, and what availability looks like. And I even get to see verified patient reviews for each doctor. Again, ZocDoc is a free app that shows you doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them. Every month, millions of people use ZocDoc. Simply go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Now back to Feel Good Friday. A college freshman in Tennessee has gone from living on the streets to playing college basketball. Jeremiah Armstead overcame incredible odds in order to land a spot on the team at Fisk University in Nashville. The 18-year-old grew up either sleeping in the car or living at homeless shelters with his mom and younger siblings. It was at one of those shelters where he discovered his love of basketball at the age of 14. He says the game got him through some of his toughest times. Armstead made the basketball team at a school in Long Beach, California, and worked hard to graduate so he could become the first member of his family to apply to college. When he was accepted to Fisk, he said it felt unreal. But another dream was about to come true. Armstead made the school basketball team, and the head coach just so happens to be one of his heroes. Former NBA point guard Kenny Anderson, who played for teams like the Atlanta Hawks and LA Clippers, says he relates to his new player. Anderson also had a difficult childhood. His family was evicted from their home in Queens, New York, and had to stay with relatives. Anderson says Armstead is very uplifting, adding that he hopes he can build him up as an athlete. Even more feel-good news, Fisk offered Armstead a partial scholarship, and the rest of his expenses will be covered by various nonprofit organizations that have taken interest in his story. He says he hopes to show his little brother and sister that anything is possible. All right, we will be back tomorrow with our special edition Saturday episode. Then join us again Monday for your next news roundup. Thank you so much for listening. For now, have a great weekend.